A very good morning to everyone on this special day set aside to honor our mothers. Mothers are teachers, disciplinarians, nurses, doctors, psychologists, cleaners, chauffeurs, and coaches. They are the developers of personalities, molders of vocabularies, and shapers of attitudes. Did you know your mom can also see into the future? Mothers have insight and foresight and can save us from many troubles if we just listen to their voice of wisdom. Now, the virtuous woman will form the basis of many teachings today, but I'd like to take you through a few verses before and introduce you to the mother of King Lemuel. Let's read from Proverbs chapter 31, verses 2 to 9. The chapter begins in verse 1, saying, "The words of King Lemuel," the prophecy that his mother taught him. The word prophecy means a burden or an utterance. So this is the burden that was on his mother's heart. It says, "Listen, my son. Listen, son of my womb. Listen, my son, the answer to my prayers. Do not spend your strength on women, your vigor on those who ruin kings. It is not for kings, Lemuel. It is not for kings to drink wine, not for rulers to crave beer, lest they drink and forget what has been decreed, and deprive all of the oppressed of their rights. Let beer be for those who are perishing, wine for those who are in anguish. Let them drink and forget their poverty and remember their misery no more." She says, "Speak up for those who cannot speak for themselves, for the rights of all who are destitute. Speak up and judge fairly. Defend the rights of the poor and the needy." Now, as Lemuel or King Solomon recalled, the burden of his mother's heart was to speak to him about making the right decisions in life. She starts off saying "listen" 3 times, a desperate attempt by a mother to get the full attention of her son. She says, "Listen, my son. Listen, son of my womb. Listen, my son, the answer to my prayers." Solomon, being both wise and wealthy, had forgotten who he was. His mother draws him back to the place of origin and conception. She reminds him of his DNA. She compels him to remember that he had come from a womb that was after the heart of God. Then she speaks to him about his ways. She tells him not to be consumed with women. She tells him not to be consumed with conflict. She tells him that drinking wine would diminish his mental capacity, and it simply dulls one's miserable circumstances. Then she talks to him about his speech. Solomon's mother tells him to use his words to speak up for the hopeless, the helpless, and for those who can't speak for themselves. She also speaks to him about making the right decision when it comes to finding a wife. What follows is the famous description in Proverbs 31 of a virtuous woman. Now, I won't read these verses to you, but they describe Superwoman. She wakes up early in the morning and works hard all day. She shops wisely and does the gardening. She's a giving person who plans so well that she's able to take care of her family's needs and reach out to the poor. She's also dependable, strong, and admired. She's someone who rises through adversity and loves the Word of God. Through all of this, she's sophisticated in her dressing. Solomon's mother really set a high standard for her son. His mother had prophetic insight. She understood his strengths and his weaknesses, and she knew that unless she called her son to order at that point, his future would look very different. Her intervention helped her son become a wise man and one of the greatest leaders in biblical history. His mother set him up for greatness. She instilled wisdom and knowledge into the heart of her son. As mothers, we have the amazing task of crafting the future of our children. Proverbs 22:6 says, "Train up a child in the way that he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it." In order to instill wisdom in our children, we need to be filled with wisdom ourselves. And this comes from the Word of God. We need to pray for them and ask the Lord for insight and discernment. We need to put practices in place to set them up to be a standard on the earth. As children, many of us have taken for granted the years of wisdom and toil our mothers have invested in us, which has helped to shape and mold us into the successful people we are today. Please take the time to appreciate your mum, praise her and honor her, not just today, but every day. God bless you and have a wonderful week.